My hands were bleeding, my lighter was dead, and one overlooked item kept me warm, fed, and moving. A lot of backpackers obsess over lighter gear, but when your lighter dies, your hands are bleeding, and the storm's rolling in, being ultralight doesn't matter. Having the right failsafe does. I've spent over 300 nights on the trail, and these 5 items didn't just help, they saved the trip. And if you find value in real-world systems, things I've tested on over 100 solo backpacking trips in actual terrain with no safety net, I share new videos every week. Subscribe if that's useful to you. So the night it mattered, I was already pretty frayed. A long day of route finding off trail in Yosemite along Falls Creek had turned into bushwhacking through manzanita shrubs and down trees. By the time I dropped into camp, I was scraped up, low on calories, and not exactly stellar morale. I went to fire up my stove and nothing. My main lighter was dead. Out of fuel, bone dry. Serious rookie mistake. I didn't check my lighter ahead of time, and now I had cold hands, a long night before me, and no fire when I needed it most. And on nights like that, dinner isn't just about eating, it was heat, calories, and a mental reset before a cold night. And I was also planning to have a campfire that night. And that's when the backup Bic came in. I keep a backup Bic Mini tucked in a plastic bag inside my repair kit. Totally dry, I flicked it once, fire, stove on, water boiling, everything shifted. But that backup lighter did more than just save my dinner. Earlier that evening, I started shaving kindling for the fire and slipped. Knife jumped, 2 fingers, clean cuts. Nothing deep enough for evacuation, but both of my fingers were bleeding and I needed them wrapped or they'd keep splitting open every time I moved. The problem, I'd already used all the bandages in my first aid kit, patching up all those scrapes from the brush throughout the day. But what I did have, a foot of Gorilla Tape wrapped around that backup lighter and some more wrapped around my trekking pole. So I tore off a few inches, wrapped it around my fingers, sealed it tight, and it held perfectly throughout 2 more days of hiking. 1 tiny Bic lighter, 1 strip of tape. When everything else failed, that combo kept me warm, fed, and bandaged. So another trip, also in Yosemite actually, along the South Rim, a classic 2-night trip. The views along the rim were next level, and I started stacking on unplanned detours. Scrambling over to Dewey Point to catch the views, a last-minute haul out to Glacier Point, and then I burned almost 2 extra hours just walking around searching for a hammock spot that wasn't 5 feet from another group of hikers. So in the end, I did a ton of extra hiking that I hadn't expected to do. By night 2, I was wiped, feet aching, sun dipping down, and suddenly doing the math, the amount of food I had left wasn't going to cut it. I had burned a lot of extra calories that day. Now, I wasn't in danger, but I was really close to the edge of, do I ration this dinner or just eat it and hope that tomorrow's hike is really easy? That kind of uncertainty is exactly what I try to avoid now. But on that trip, I actually did something new. I had brought an extra day's worth of food. 3,000 extra calories I'd crammed in at the last minute. Protein bars, cheese, dried fruit, muffins, extra protein powder, nothing fancy, but exactly what I ended up needing. And so I didn't save it, I started eating it. And that's what got me through the long exposed haul back to Wawona the next day without running on fumes. So if you're ever out there exploring a new area, unmarked loops, lightly trafficked ridges, or you just want to leave room for spontaneity on a backpacking trip, pack an extra day's worth of food. It's real insurance against the best kind of detour, the kind you didn't plan for but don't want to miss. So another trip, I was solo, off trail, and honestly feeling pretty confident. The junction looked familiar, wide, packed dirt. It looked exactly like the main trail. I veered right without paying attention, hit a good pace, and I was half a mile in before I pulled out my phone to look for water sources. And that's when I saw it. My Gaia GPS app had me off course. Not just a little off, I was actively descending into the wrong drainage. I had made a wrong turn and I could have easily kept going a lot longer. Without a GPS app tracking tracking me in real time, I could have blown way past the correction window. Having offline maps on a device with satellite location pinging like most smartphones can these days, that gave me my margin back on that trip. I was able to climb back out, reroute, and I still made camp by dusk. And here's the thing, it's not about tech replacing intuition, and you should never rely on a phone app by itself without bringing a paper map and a compass. That gut check that makes you pause at an unmarked fork in the trail, a route finding app like Gaia GPS or many other apps these days lets you verify where you are and not gamble. So before every trip, I download the full map of the area I'm backpacking in offline. And if I'm hiking solo or in a low visibility terrain, I set a 1 hour mental timer to glance at my location on the GPS app just to catch those small errors before they snowball. All right, this clicked for me after a long, wet stretch in the Sierras. 3 hours of light but steady rain, just enough to soak every seam, zipper, and shoulder strap. I crossed a waist-deep creek, dropped my pack, and reached in to check my quilt. Bone dry. My plan worked. No dry sack, no pack cover. I had just used a trash compactor bag lining the inside of my pack, and it did not let a drop in. And it works better than a rain cover for one simple reason. It lives inside your pack. Rain covers can shift. They funnel water down your back panel. They can get blown off or forgotten, but a pack liner twisted shut like a dry bag, and your sleep system, sleep layers, and insulation are completely sealed off, no matter how bad the weather gets. So these days I usually run a lighter Nylofume pack liner, but honestly, if you told me to prep for 5 days of cold rain and gave me nothing but a $1 trash compactor bag, I'd still feel totally fine. So these days I usually bring out at least 3 different USB rechargeable devices on almost every trip. My phone, a USB headlamp, and my Garmin InReach. And I actually use them a lot, especially in winter. Long nights means more time in the hammock, more movies after dark, more headlamp hours around camp, even messaging home if I've got service. When I first started backpacking, I used to be able to get by with a small 5,000 milliamp power bank on a 2 to 3 night trip, and I could charge my phone once or twice, and that felt efficient. But lately, that thing's out of juice by day 2. So now I actually carry a 20,000 milliamp bank, the Anchor PowerCore 20,000. That's my go-to big battery. It's heavier and I don't care. It means I can run Gaia GPS location tracking all day, recharge my headlamp after a long night hike, and still have power to unwind with some Netflix before bed that I download ahead of time. And yes, I watch movies in the backcountry. No shame. And ultimately, I don't carry a bigger battery bank or a backup lighter or a trash compactor bag because I expect things to go sideways. I carry them so that if they do, I'm not stuck staring at a dead screen, soaked insulation, or an open wound with no fix. So everything I've shared today came from learning the hard way on solo trips with no safety net when things didn't go as planned. And if you're newer to backpacking and want to skip some of that trial and error, I dropped a beginner's guide to backpacking on the blog. It covers everything I wish I'd known earlier: gear, safety, planning systems, all in one place. And next week, I'm releasing a 3-day backpacking trip planner kit, a full set of tools to help you build smart, realistic trips from the ground up. I'll share all the details here once it's live, so keep an eye out. And if you want the flip side of this, gear that made every day better, not just survivable, check out my video on 5 upgrades I'd buy again in a heartbeat. It's right here. All right, guys, that's it for me. Stay warm, stay dry out there, and I'll catch you on the next one.